In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the creation of a message box, and then we'll also create an image box, and then finally a drawing canvas as well. So basically 3 things that we'll do in this lesson. So let's jump right in, and I'm going to start with a comment first. So first we will create a message box, and let me go ahead and save this. So I'm going to call it message.py and begin. So from tkinter, import and our asterisk, just create master equals tk, and next the text I'm going to create. So maybe something like whatever you do. Again, you can use any naming convention. I'm going to say welcome to advanced Python course, and I love Python. Great. So next I'm going to display a message. So it'll be message equals message, and then here comes the master and then my text, and in this instance text will be whatever you do. Whatever you do. Perfect. Next, the message box will contain the style, right? So in other words, the configuration such as the color, the font, and the font style, and so on. So based on your own requirements, you can create those as well. So let's go ahead and create message.config, and my BG, which is my background, I'm going to leave it white for now, and the font is going to be, again, you can use any font like Times New Roman, Arial, Verdana, and so on. Okay, and this instance I'm going to use, let's say, Times, and make sure our quotations are corrected. Alright, so we got our font, and of course we need to define the size as well. So the font will be, let's say, 22, and then maybe I want italic. Alright, once I'm done with my message box, just simply do the pack and then close the main loop. Okay, so just a simple message box that's going to pop up on the screen. It's going to display the message, welcome to advanced Python course, I love Python. And then it'll be a white background with Times New Roman font, size 22, and in italic. So if I were to run this before we move forward, just so you can see. And of course, let's fix up line 10, which means that I need a set of parentheses for time, which I forgot. Great. And of course, I need my closing parentheses as well. Perfect. Let's save it, run it, and this time a simple box is going to pop up which says, welcome to advanced Python course, I love Python. Okay. All right, let's continue on. Next, our objective is to create an image box, right? So we're going to create a canvas and then call the image on to the canvas. So just put a comment. Second, we will create an image box with Python image. Let's go ahead from tkinter, import, set my canvas width and height. So this will be, could be anything, but just make it to 25, and canvas height would also equals 225. So we'll just make a square box. And next, let's get our master equals tk, and do the canvas variable equals canvas master, and specify the width and height again. So this will be width equals canvas width, and then height equals canvas height, and use the canvas.pack. Great. Next, we're going to bring in the image. Okay, so let me move some spaces down so we can see the code. All right, to bring in the image, we simply do the image equals just photo image and then the file. So I need to tell Python where the file is or where that image is. I can also specify a path here, or if my working directory is the same as Python's, then I can just specify the name of the image. Okay, so it'll be python.png in this instance. And this python.png is placed in the same folder as your py files are in. Okay, otherwise I'm going to give you a syntax. So you need to make sure you follow the same path. Either enter the complete path such as C:\/ and then the directory where the Python image resides, or if it's already there, just specify the name of the file. So once you specify the image, let's go to our canvas and create it, image, and place it at 2020. Specify the anchor, top corner, and image equals img. Close the main loop. Great. So this simple code allows us to create a pop-up with an image inside. So let's save it. Let me execute this so we can see so far. Let's click on run. And first, of course, it gives us the Welcome to Advanced Python course box. If I close this, it's going to open up the image box. And once again, this image is in the folder that already resides. And let me in fact show you where that is. Okay, so let me close this. Let me do a Control New, Control S to save. And within this Python folder, if I scroll down, it should somewhere here, it should say Python. All right, great, here it is. So here's my Python image that we just used. Now, of course, you need to know the full path of the directory. So if you don't have the image within the same path, you need to enter the entire path here or wherever your image is so that Python knows where to get the image from. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Let's close this. Let's go back to our message.py. Great. So we created a box, we created an image box, and next we're going to do something else. We're going to do a drawing canvas one more time. So in this, we'll want to be able to draw freehand on the canvas by simply dragging, right? So by dragging the mouse. So again, we want to be able to draw freehand on the canvas by simply dragging the mouse. To do this, we'll create a canvas widget and then attach the event bindings to it. So I'm going to show you the bindings, and with this we'll capture the mouse clicks and drags. When we first click the mouse, we'll remember that location as our start position, and every time the mouse is moved, for instance with the mouse button still held down, we'll create a line item going from this start position to the current mouse position, and the current mouse position will then be the start position for the next line segment. Okay, and it's gonna continue on. So as we drag and draw on the canvas, it's going to start with the starting position, and then where we left it, it's going to end there, and then of course start over. So let's go ahead and begin our code. First, of course, we'll use the from tkinter. So I'm going to use from tkinter import, and then from tkinter import the ttk, and next let's do the last x and last y, and I'm going to specify them to be 0 and at 0. Here's our definition, xy, and since we're using the event bindings, so I'm going to do the event, and this is going to be a global for the last x and last y. Some spaces in here. And next, of course, our canvas. We're going to create it. Create the line for the last x and last y, and the event x and event y. And we need a set of parentheses. This goes inside. Great. And right after the canvas, we'll do the last X and last Y, and we're going to make them equal to the events. Event X and event Y. Perfect. All right, once we done this, let's do the root equals TK. We'll set a parentheses and do the column figure and row. So let's do root dot column configure 0 and then specify the weight for this. So I'm going to say weight equals 1 and do the same thing for the row configure. So here I'm just configuring the single row and single column. So specify this to be at 0 also, and weight, we'll keep it the same. All right, next we'll work with the canvas itself. So canvas is going to be equal to canvas root spellings, and then my canvas dot grid method is going to be at column 0 equals 0 and row equals 0. This will be the starting, and then of course our sticky equals NW east and south. We're going to bind it now. So use our canvas dot bind, and I'm going to bind it to the button -1 and the X and Y both. Canvas dot bind, and next I'm going to bind this with the motion. So well, it will be B1 dash motion and do the add line. Great. And close our main loop, which will be root dot main loop, and set of parentheses. Perfect. So here we use the event and the binding method to create a box which will allow us to draw using our mouse. So let's save it, run it. First, of course, the first piece of code or a program is to display the canvas widget that simply displays a text. Welcome to Advanced Python. If I close this, it's going to give me the image for the Python. Now if I close the image widget here, it should pop up another one for us to draw. But let's take a look at line 53. And of course, I forgot the closing for the BY motion. Save it, run it, close our first box, close our second box. All right, let's take a look at our code. It says add line, of course, is not defined. So let me go back up here. So here's our definition, which is fine. Then we defined the global. Of course, we need to also set up add line, or whichever variable we want to use. We need to define another definition, okay? Because so far, it only created the line, right? Next, we need to be able to draw also. So basically, we need to get rid of this from here. Cut it out. Here's our first definition, which is our last X and last Y and the two events. And let's do another definition here. And here I'm going to specify the add line, or whichever name you want to provide. And create an event. And specify one more time global last X and last Y. And right after this goes our canvas creation. Okay? And of course, once we're done, to the last X and last Y equal to event X and event Y. Okay, so we missed a piece of code. Now our code is complete, because once we have a definition for both the events, and then next we're going to add the line. And on the bottom here, when we bind it, we bind the add line definition to the motion. And we bind the XY to the button. Okay, so now we follow the code. And notice the XY here is bound to this definition, and the add line is bound to this definition. Great, let's save it, run it. Here's our first box. Here's our second image box. And next, I need to make sure that I use the same name, otherwise it's not going to run. Let's try one last time. Close these two boxes, and perfect. So here's our third box, which is a drawing canvas. So if I hold the mouse button and simply draw, and of course line 46, let's see, and silly mistake, instead of a comma, it should be a dot. All right, let's try again. Perfect. So now I'm able to draw, but the event X seems to be a problem at line 47. And of course, if I get my things right, let's try again. Perfect. There we go. Now I'm able to draw, right? So my starting position and then my stopping position where I stop and let go. So once I start again, notice it joins from the last stopped position. So if I were to start, click here, it's going to join this line from my last stop position. So it's going to continue on and make sure I have a continuous line instead of separate lines, because I bound both of them, right? The starting position to the ending position with the line. Great. So I hope this helps practice creating these widgets, because once we get into our advanced graphics later on in this course, these will be very helpful when we actually create a GUI interface in Python. And notice as I do this, I still have on line 43, I want to be able to correct this quickly. So line 43 is the event X and Y. So I want to make sure I have my dots here. All right, looks great. Let's run it one final last time without any errors. Perfect. So let's start drawing. There we go. So now Python draws everything correctly, and our code is also correct with the correct syntax, and of course a few spelling errors or the syntax errors. And you want to make sure that you correct them as you go, or you can correct them afterwards. So at this point, when I draw my canvas, is perfectly fine. So practice drawing the canvas widgets, whether it's an image, text, or freehand drawing, and let's move to our next lesson.